Hey guys, welcome back to the Lit Mag Lab podcast. I'm Vevna Forrow again. That's my pen name. But I just wanted to, recap the last episode. I was covering Subfolio, right, which is a fairly new submission management system. Again, Dippy Lit Mag and Dippy Press, we've left submittable. So if you're curious why or want a little bit more insight into that, listen back. But I will say again, Subfolio is pretty well rounded. If you're looking for something very close to submittable, so yeah, that's awesome again. And yeah, I know I say awesome a bunch of times, but it totally is awesome. So yeah, anyways, I want to begin this part of the series, of the Lit Mag Lab podcast, which I'm calling Under the Slide. Now, I'm sure you know microscopes, right? Microscope slides, right? I mentioned this, I think, sometime. My parents, got me a red microscope when I was younger, and it had, example specimens and stuff. So that's where the series sort of derived from, I guess. And we've all taken biology classes and things like that. I think my weakest subject for sure was chemistry, for sure. Yeah. But yeah, I've always loved science. Aside from art, of course, art was my favorite subject, and then science, and yeah, and history. I love those subjects. Anyways, back to poetry. So you can see, I'm on a site, right? This is Poetry Online. It is a web-based journal, but they also do, chapbooks and other things. Totally. Yeah, so they have a chapbook series alongside their digital editions. I'm going to basically, sometimes read the mission statement, a little bit about, a lit mag or journal I come across, or one maybe I've, maybe have followed, closely, or some new ones even, that I've stumbled across. And, yeah, so I think it's cool just to share. So I have actually, as you recall from, a couple episodes back, that I had submitted to Poetry Online in the past. And yeah, I think a couple of times, at least three times, I would recall, or so. And yeah, so Poetry Online, if you're watching the video, PS guys, on Spotify and some platforms, right? Sometimes you have to drag the slider out, and then the video doesn't isn't static anymore. It's not like frozen. So then it clears up. I don't know what that is. I think it's just on Spotify. If you go out on YouTube or another channel where I plugged this in, right, it's clear, so just keep that in mind, or less finicky about that. But once you drag the slider, a little bit back, on other platforms outside of, YouTube, it's fine. So, anyways, Poetry Online is a nonprofit organization dedicated to sharing literature and art accessibly. Our web journals, Poetry Online and Prose Online, publish creative writing, two dimensional art, and time based art with audio, plain text, and captioning. And our printed chapbooks are available alongside digital editions. We are dedicated to expanding the digital literary art space to better serve disabled writers, viewers, and readers. Poetry Online was incorporated as a 501c nonprofit organization in December 2020. The organization, it says this organization was founded on stolen indigenous land of the Dakota, and I'm going to mispronounce this, I apologize in advance, Anishinaabe Ojibwe people in Minnesota. And yeah, so then they go in to say, and I'm quoting this off their site again. So then they go in to say, work from our journal was included in the 2022 Best of the Net anthology. It then goes into, the types of submissions, right? Poetry, submissions, reprint submissions. They republish poems that have not yet appeared online in an accessible format. They also publish new poetry, including written, visual poetry, etc., and translation. So yeah, after it says October 2nd, 2022, they increased their rate, of pay per poem as $60, USD. So that's cool. They also, I believe, pay $41 for accepted reviews and interviews, pitches, and things like that, that they accept, So yeah, Poetry Online's awesome. They're based out of my home state, Minnesota. I never really knew that. I don't remember that at all. When I was submitting to them, I don't think I knew that. So that's really cool. Now, as you can see here, so if I scroll all the way down, you'll see this Silver Transparency 2023. And I clicked on this just because I was curious. So you can see a nonprofit publisher and weekly journal committed to accessibly sharing literature and art again. And Herman, Minnesota. I don't think I've ever been over to Herman, Minnesota. I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I lived there most of my life, and I, moved out to the desert. Basically, I've been in the desert for about what 7 almost 7 years now. But yeah, I was in Minnesota for over 2 decades, and yeah, you're probably like, how did I get here, right? Why am I in the desert now reviewing lit magazine journals, guys, right? You're like that now. So I'm not in the desert technically. I'm in like the, Las Vegas Valley area, right? Somewhere between, Las Vegas and, Henderson, right? That area. So yeah, I'm just like 15 minutes away from, within 15 minutes of Las Vegas airport, actually. So yeah, that's cool. I love coming across, Minnesota based, literary magazines and journals from my home state, totally. And on this podcast, of course, I'll find some other fellow Nevada based lit magazine journals to share too. Yeah. So I know there are a couple in Reno, and then another one, yeah, that I can share too, totally. Anyways, back to poetry online. So they mentioned prose online here. I haven't looked at that before. So let's go out there. If I type in the search URL here, prose online, I have a tab actually up on it. I forgot. So yeah, when you go to prose dot onl, in the URL search box, right? This is what comes up, right? This is the site for this. And yeah, if we go back here, to Poetry Online, if I click on the, typically again, when you click on, the logo of a literary magazine or journal, right, it takes you back to the home space most of the time. So that's what I did there. And yeah, so you can see the latest here. They have a good website layout, I'd say, for sure. You can see the winner announcement of their 2024 chapbook, and yeah, let's take a look at their chapbooks and see this. So yeah, that's awesome. I'm not sure when they started this. Let's see. Yeah, 2023, April 2023. It says they published 4 chapbooks, and that's awesome. Yeah. And then they have the 2024. It says fellowship is closed now. So yeah, that's very cool. Definitely check out these chapbooks. It looks like you can get it in their online bookstore. I don't know where that goes. Let's see what that goes out to. Well, it didn't take me anywhere. I'm not sure why. That store page didn't take me out there. Yeah, so that may be something. Maybe they're updating. That happens from time to time. Or that happens. So yeah, you can see they have some contest submission fees, and they only accept submissions via submittable. So I'll go back there in a second, or to their submit page, but I'll show you this on their page, right? So yeah, you can see this is the home page, right? They have project updates, announcements, and things happening over the years. I don't know about 2025. And I think, I was curious, what happened to Poetry Online, because I was going on their social media. I didn't see activity there. But sometimes places take breaks from social media, right? And you don't necessarily have to be on social media all the time. But yeah, so I'm sure they'll, update portions of their site, maybe even come back to social media one day. I'm not sure. They could be on another social media channel besides the one I checked too. I haven't checked every place. But yeah, you can see they're actively last was May 2nd, 2025. So yeah, and I believe they're open right now. You know why? Because I went out to Chill Subs, right? So if you type poetry online in here, let's go over here and type it here. So you'll see Poetry Online, right? And you can see it's open. Now they don't have a set deadline in here, and sometimes you'll come across deadlines in submittable. And I know some places like to extend things, as needed, so that's okay. When you see something I forgot to mention, right? So when you see, deadlines in here like this, right? That's indicating that, again, that one bucket is going to a call. They have a call that is going to close July 25th, right? And it's like the time is ticking, right? But there could be other calls that lit mag journal or press, right, has besides that, that you can go and see when you click into, their page, right, and go to the calls. Some lit magazine journals put deadlines in there, or even, on their submission management system, whether it be submittable or subfolio like we have, right? So just keep that in mind. That may not be the only, call deadline. That's just showing the one that's coming up next, right? In chill subs. So I just wanted to point that out. So if we go back here, right, you can see it's been bookmarked about 442 times. And here's the acceptance rate. It says the editor reported data is 1%. So it's really tough to get into poetry online for sure. Chill sub tracker stats. That means, those who have used the, chill sub tracker, as I showed in a couple episodes back, right? um have entered, their whether they got an acceptance decline, they kept track of it, right? And it's been averaging, it looks like, about 5.8%. But the editor reported one is the one you really want to pay attention to too, as well, as alongside of this. So I like seeing both here, actually. I think that's very helpful. Yeah, and then you can see response time, right? This is, yeah, and that's cool. Send us your best but less intimidating. That's their vibe. And there are examples here. Of course, you can go out to their site directly, but I like to see that, too. So if we go back to the site here, what really, whoa, I accidentally jumped here. Sorry about that, guys. So what I really want to, let me put this back and snap it into my tabs here. So what I want to point out here is that Poetry Online has this really cool widget on the right hand side. You see this? And it's accessibility widget. So this is what it looks like. Now I won't click on every single thing in here, but know that I think it'll do a voice, and it'll state some of the actions being taken too. But you can, increase the size of the cursor, pause animations. You can adjust contrast, text spacing, and yeah, I mean, I can show you guys. So let me click on, let's go here. How about we go to read here? And you can see they have a search in here, so that's really nice. I love seeing journals that have a search bar, because not all, that I've come across um, have search bars in there, and I think that is a flaw in some sites, right? Because you want to read past publications, right? You want to easily find things, when they're published online. So I love seeing that they have a search bar somewhere on their site. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so let's just use I'm just gonna click on one at random. How about this poem here, by Gray Davison Carroll? So yeah, you can see if I click on this, and I love that they have voice, reads too. So if I click on, let's say, text spacing, right? You see that there? It changes that. That's really cool. And before, I think when I clicked on it, there was sound on it too, on some of these too. So you can see the big cursor, and it's in reading mask. It has a lot of capabilities. That's really neat. Line height. I feel like this tool widget is beneficial for a lot of sites. We do, for example, at Dippy Lit Mag, I'll say, we do accept submissions, from poets all over the world, right, too. And um, you have to keep in mind, right? Some writers do, and artists, right, have disabilities, and even if a poet doesn't have disabilities or at all, I think these widgets are very helpful and great. You know, you can increase the size of the text. I feel like even with our site, right, that's not, sometimes it could be considered hard to read, right? It could be, absolutely. I love this widget. I think it's very cool. I don't see a lot of lit mags and journals with widgets, for disabled writers, or others who want to adjust things. I think accessibility is like a very important part of magazines, and journals, and websites in general, right? You want to always ensure that your website is very easy to navigate, easy to use, and to, if someone wants to change, you know, if someone wants to change things, right? It's very cool, to be able to do that. Um, I think there's hide images on here, so that you can see it took off the image of Poetry Online right there. But I think if you do that on, and you can see the desaturate. It wasn't showing up here because I didn't scroll to the top, but you can see the saturation change there, right? And if we go back to the home page, I'll show you this. So it does this, the widget here. And this widget, by the way, is by, it looks like Userway. And that's very cool. Yeah. So if you go to hide images, see, that's what happens, right? And yeah, so I think that's a really cool widget that they have. Now, I don't know if they get a discount on it, or, have a certain plan or custom plan with Userway, being a nonprofit. I'm not aware, but it is a very expensive widget to have. It looks like 490 a year, 1490 a year in custom, right? So I'm not sure if they're on a custom plan or if there's, a different plan they're on, being nonprofit or something. But in either case, it's an awesome widget. I think it's really useful. I will say there are other ones out there like Userway. For example, if remember, I think it was episode 33, when I was sharing the PDF readers, right? The flipbook systems, right? You may recall FlipSnack, right? So FlipSnack, right? It's just a reminder, it helps, do digital magazines and, page flip animations and more. I haven't used them, but, look back at that episode if you're curious. And I mentioned some others, right? But you'll see, um, notice they have a accessibility widget here too. But theirs is from a different place. It is by Sienna. Now, if you click on this at the bottom, Sienna, right? It takes you out here, and look, it says forever free. So that's awesome. It's a free, no strings attached widget. It says easy installation, and yeah. So I'm thinking about maybe trying this out for our site too. I'm not sure yet, but I think that it may help others. We'll see. Of course, we get feedback on others. If they like the widget or not. But yeah, I think it is very useful, to have, an accessibility widget. Some sites, again, for others, right, they like to increase the font and stuff and easily do that, all that. Of course, right, in browser, right, there's some things where you can zoom in and stuff, but yeah. Also keep in mind that, on, websites, desktop view, right, what you're reading on your mobile device, line spacing wise, is always going to be different, right? Because of the size screen of the screen, right? Yeah, so to retain, a lot of times if you want to read what the formatting is like precisely as is, right, you want to go in the desktop mode or desktop view, right? And you can do that on your mobile device. There's an option to view as desktop, right, too, in desktop mode. And yeah, um I would say also some lit magazine journals that have visual poetry and stuff, they have screenshots, right? I've seen some time embedded in their websites, um, of the visual poem too, to retain its, shape. But yeah, in any case, I think Poetry Online has a great website. That widget's really nice. I don't see, again, a lot of lit magazine journals that have that. Now, this is their donation setup. I'll just show you an example. So, Donor Box, they're using Donor Box. I haven't used Donor Box before. I know some places use Give Butter, Buy Me a Coffee again, right? Things like that. So, that's cool. They have it embedded here. Others can choose a custom amount. So yeah, I haven't looked much at Donor Box, but that's cool, so you can support them. And yeah, they have an FAQ page, so really, really clear, all their guidelines. I'm not going to expand all of these, but you can check out Poetry Online further. Mostly I'm just doing these episodes to share, terms and conditions, privacy policy. It's important, for lit magazine journals to, especially if you're running, a chat book press and alongside of, an online publication or print, right? To have your, terms and conditions, privacy policies, and all of that. If you're looking for examples of that, right, read through a couple lit magazine journals to get the gist or examples of some out there, and then create your own. Use it as a foundation, create your own, right? Um, yeah, so I just wanted to give an example of for our first Under the Slide episode. It's not the first podcast episode, but this is our first one, so where I just cover a literary magazine or journal, right? And yeah, so again, their submit page. We'll just take a look at what they have here. Um, yeah. So they have their guideline reminders here and everything, and about payment. And you scroll down, right? And then again, it says their submission portal. You can see their CLMP member listed on Chill Subs, listed at Duotrope. Always good to have the badges here to remind others. And yeah, so yeah, so let's go to, yeah, their submittable page. You can see they have, expedite option, no fee. They did have, just now I saw earlier, a 3-day or 1-day option, but that just expired. There was about 8 minutes left before I did this podcast episode. But yeah, just know that I totally have done the expedite option in the past with them, and they totally did meet that time frame to get back to me. I think I chose the 3-day option that they had, the one that I just said expired. So anyways, yeah, just know that they have also a 3-day or 1-day option alongside of this. They have expedited and no fee, right? And you can expand the guidelines, right, as I showed you right before. So yeah, and yeah, so I'm logged out right now, but yeah, of submittable, but that's why I've been logged out for a little bit. That's why I did that, so I can log back in. But anyways, yeah, I just wanted to show you, that, and pros online. I haven't checked that out as much. We can see again they have the accessibility widget, here again. Yeah, so that's really nice. So I just wanted to point that out, and it's always a good idea to have, social media somewhere, or somewhere where others can connect with you. I know some lit magazine journals just have it linked on their chill subs page and things like that. So yeah, I think it's cool, so they're set up, they have a flash prize there, too. Yeah, so I would say their website's overall really great. I just wanted to give you guys a quick tour, and point out about accessibility widgets, because I don't think a lot of places really do that, and I love to see that. I think it's great. So who knows? We may try it out on, our site, or, too, and see how others like it. I will point out they have their ISSN here. Again, if you are curious about how to get your own ISSN as a, lit mag or journal, whether it be print or online, right? Or, there's an online, web-based ISN, and then a print, ISSN that you can get. But you have to fill out an application for it, right? So I did a podcast episode of, if the just do a keyword search and you'll come across it, about, ISBNs, ISSNs, the difference between them, so yeah. So yeah, a wonderful journal, right, based in Minnesota. I just want to give a shout out to them because I think they're awesome. Yeah. Again, very cool. So you can read more poems on here. In your spare time, check out poetry online, check out prose online, and yeah. Maybe I'll circle back and see about their chapbook series too. I don't know, that was new to me. I haven't really looked at that in the past, but yeah, definitely a cool journal, web-based one out there, and they have done some print publications as well, it looks like. So that's really nice, and they are able to pay poets for their work, and I love seeing that, right? Not every place is able to do so, right? I will say that again, for nonprofits, right, you have more funding opportunities, right, to apply for and things like that. Yeah, so there are benefits to being nonprofit, and there are also some things you need to take in consideration. Not every mag or journal is a nonprofit, keep that in mind. So yeah, CLMP has more information about what it means to be a nonprofit. You can, if you join their membership, reach out to them about that. They have a lot of great resources, for getting help with that too. And the community is also very supportive on exchanging information about their process with it, becoming nonprofit, etc. Yeah, so yeah, I just wanted to take the time to share poetry online and prose online. And yeah, so this is an example, of a pretty good setup, of a web-based journal that's able to pay poets for their work, and does a lot. Yeah, always like to see a very easy to navigate website, search, and everything. So yeah, that's all, guys. Check out poetry online, and yeah. So these episodes will vary, from time to time, but I will share, as many lit mags and journals as I can through this podcast, in my downtime for sure. And yeah, if you enjoy these episodes, drop a comment, a thought or anything, and like, share, and yeah, if this helps you, it may help others. Totally. Yeah. So that's all. Yeah. Signing off. Yeah.